You're listening to Experience This, a show about the emerging experience economy with your host, Tom Young.
Hey, welcome to the show. I'm sitting down here in the studio with Kiran Bajwa. How you doing, Kiran?
Hey, Tom. How's it going?
All right. Hey, today we were going to talk about nothing in particular. We're going to talk about a concept called a nice day in July. And you know, the issue occurred to me over the weekend where we're in the we're in the middle of spring, right? People waiting for that, unofficial start to summer, which is Memorial Day weekend.
Yep.
And, weather and, free time play a lot into enjoying, the day, right? So when I think of, we had pretty nice, it got into the 70s and it was sunny here in New Jersey. It was beautiful. I was out getting the pool ready and the porch furniture and everything. But I remember last year, we lost a lot of weekend days and didn't have a lot of nice days.
Yeah.
And then it got to the notion of, conversations we had around taking, a nice day on a weekend for granted, right? So
considering we don't have a lot left, right? Well, you've got that app, I think. Was it an app or a calculation you did?
Well, it's a calculation. So you figure a nice Saturday. So I'm going to just limit it to Saturdays, figuring it's just one day a weekend. And you figure the summertime is about 15 weeks, at least in the Northeast, right?
Mm-hmm.
Let's just say conservatively 10 of them are nice.
Yeah.
So I'm going to have, now you could have nice days in the fall and spring and winter. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying the summertime nice days. You figure there's 10 or 12 a year on Saturday. So you don't want to take them for granted. If you like most people who like the outdoors, like to be out in the sun, have a picnic or whatever. So in town here in Branchburg, we had a food truck festival, and it was the first one we did in town, and it was at the central park in our town called White Oak Park. And I went down there. I have to make an appearance and everything. I would have gone anyway, but there were thousands of people there.
Wow.
I mean, I want to say 3,000 to 4,000, which was huge. The line to get in was several hundred people long and on a continuous basis. I showed up, I'm like, this line's going to die down, and this kept, it was perpetually went out to the street. It was maybe a 150-yard line. And it was, and it struck me this Saturday, and I was thinking, people are really craving for that. Again, what we have always been talking about was as an experience.
Yeah. Have you heard of Smorgasburg in the city?
No.
So it's a similar concept.
It's like a street festival?
Oh, well, it's a, in Williamsburg, they've basically designated off this park area.
In Brooklyn?
In Brooklyn, yep.
Yeah.
And it's right on the water. So you've got awesome views of Manhattan from Brooklyn.
Right.
And they probably have anywhere, it's similar. So they've probably have like 100 different of these boutique food vendors who haven't yet made it to a physical retail location, but they either have a following on Instagram or they're a cult neighborhood favorite. But it's cool. It's emerging brands.
And it's there every weekend?
So it only happens from May till about September, early October.
Right.
Outside. And I was just looking at the numbers because I know it's pretty big. So it's around 20 to 30,000 people each weekend.
Wow.
That's pretty massive.
And it's like street food.
Yeah.
And you just walk around.
Yeah.
That's great.
And you just...
Have you been to it?
Yeah.
And
it's a mob scene. I mean, you have to be prepared because it's busy.
Yeah, but that makes it fun.
Yeah. I mean, the food is awesome.
Yeah.
It's stuff that, you probably wouldn't, and it's very specific food. Everything's probably between $5 to $10. Like 10 is probably the max.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's great. It's street food.
So I was in Japan with my daughter for a week, and, Japan's like, it's like a foodie capital, right? So we didn't really do any of the restaurants. My daughter is 14, so the fine dining, that wasn't doing it for us. But we did do a lot of street food. Now, the fine dining in Japan is really expensive. I mean, probably at least 2x
Yeah.
New York. But the street food is comparable to any place, and I actually like the street food better. I mean, it's probably lowbrow, but I enjoyed the street food, and when it's crowded, it makes it actually better, I think.
Oh yeah, it's bustling.
It's bustling. It's just a fun scene. There's an energy around that.
Yeah, I think that is the experience. That's part of the experience. It's almost reminiscent of markets in international cities. So in Delhi, for example, there's a whole street food market. Even in Singapore and Malaysia, there's these night markets that are all centered around street food. And those become experiential destinations that people go to.
So this goes to the conversation we've had before around why do people go to taverns?
Yeah.
And there's some semblance, like if you deconstruct what you did, if you went to one of these, the food truck festival or go to this place called Smorgasburg, and walk around and say, okay, what did I actually do? Well, I got a coffee and a meat on a stick and a ice cream sundae and walked along the water. Well, you could probably technically do that at any time, but it's not the same thing when there's not a lot of people there.
Yeah.
It's not just the act of doing it. It's being in the presence of a lot of others doing the same thing. There's a social aspect to it, regardless of whether you're talking to these people or meeting them or getting to know them. There's just something about being in a large group of people like that.
Yeah, this Smorgasburg in itself has become a destination. I mean, people plan their weekends around, I have to go to Smorgasburg on Saturday.
That's because it's fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess. So when I got back, Sunday if Saturday was nice, Sunday was sucked.
Yeah.
The weather was just raining all the time, and it got cold, and it's just totally different. So you get the notion of not taking these beautiful days for granted, and figuring out what makes you happy, and I would suggest that all these thousands of people who showed up at this food truck festival I saw this past Saturday, or when you go to Smorgasburg, or when you go to any of these street festivals that are I remember back in the day, the San Gennaro Festival. But there's a lot of street festivals in New York. They're all over the place. I went to a website in New Jersey and I said, let me search for some of these festivals. And you can find it if you're actively looking and have some discernment.
Yeah.
But it's hard to find something that really caters to your interests.
I agree. I think in the city, this still remains a struggle. I think there's a lot of companies that are trying to solve that problem. There's a site called Pulsed, which sends you the happenings for the weekend. But a lot of them are centered around, $29 for a boozy brunch for two. And it's like, how many of those can you actually really do? But you have to, Time Out is a good resource, but you have to hunt for information.
Yeah, that's my experience. I talked to the organizer of this food truck festival that they ran in town, and they ran from like 11 to 7.
Yeah.
So it's about 8 hours, and they might have had, I want to say 6 bands come in from the morning to live music, and that drives a lot of the following because the people follow some of these bands around. So live music is another big part of the analog experience and the social experience. People like to go see their favorite band. They see the same people following the band around, so there's a connected social aspect to it. But it seems to me, go back to our original premise around this show, that people are going to start optimizing their time. And how do we really use technology to not invade that time? I could have sat at home and watched Netflix and wasted one of these beautiful Saturdays.
Yeah.
Or use the technology on Friday night to say tomorrow's going to be awesome. Don't screw around watching Netflix or binge watching on Amazon or whatever it might be. Go to this festival, go here, and plan your day out. And because a lot of times it's too late. Like you didn't plan it. Like if I waited till the day before, I could probably go, but it'd be more fun if I could arrange 4 or 5 friends to go and say, hey, let's meet there and let's go do something. They have street fairs, and most towns have them at some point. And then just plan your calendar around them and try to enjoy them. Here in Somerset County, New Jersey, from Memorial Day to Labor Day, Friday nights in Main Street, Somerville, which is like an old downtown. And this is really, they've been doing this for about 20 years. It's like a whole revitalization of the downtown. It's an old school Main Street, right? So where you have 3 or 4 story buildings, and then the bottom's retail and the top is residential.
Right.
A lot of restaurants are going in there. And they turn it into, you can't park on the street. Only classic cars can park there.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah.
And so people park cars in the 1950s, 1930s, 1950s, 60s, et cetera. So you have all these old cars and on display, and then people set up lawn chairs. And then the restaurants move their seating outdoors. And so it's almost like a carnival every Friday night.
Wow.
And it's packed. I mean, people just go almost every Friday night just to walk up and down and see the cars. You see the same people. And we'll have to do that, sometime after Memorial Day. I'll show it to you. But we've been to Cafe Picasso down there.
Mm-hmm.
And it's Cafe Picasso puts tables out on the street. And it's like a community atmosphere.
I think it goes to show that people are definitely looking to get outside of their homes and do stuff with people and interact with one another.
Yeah.
Now I think the next question is, how do you, it would be awesome if, I don't know, there was a way where I guess I was proactively given that information versus
Well, this is where I think we
it.
bring the technology in a proactive way that is not disruptive, but it enhances. So
Yeah.
I'll give you another example. Like every fall, I think of, let's go see the leaves change. That'd be a fun thing to go do. And you're sitting here in New Jersey, but at the time you see a leaf change here, you say, let's go up to New England. It's already done.
Yeah.
You missed it. And so you have to plan these things months in advance, which is a little bit of a buzzkill to some extent. But to be able to sit down on a Tuesday and say, hey, by the way, these things that you are likely to like based on whatever profile or what things you've liked before, they're coming up. Just put them on your calendar and just say, hey, they're there. And you say, that's really neat. I want to go do that seafood festival on the boardwalk or whatever it might be. And I'm going to almost like the way the meetups work.
Yeah.
And just say to go do that. I look at like my parents who are still alive. Their social circle drives around their country club.
Oh, they have a lot of events happening at their country club.
But the way it works with them is there's not a lot of planning required.
That's great.
So when they want to socialize, they just go to the club and there's people they know. Now, if they're going to do a sit-down dinner, they'll arrange that. But my dad plays golf all the time in a competitive group, and it's a standing time. They play Friday, Saturday, Sunday. There's different times that they play. It's set. You just show up, and if it's 12 guys or 16 or 9, and they create a little mini tournament. So they play competitively for money all the time, and so it keeps them all. And it's only open to people who are single-digit handicappers. So you have to be a good golfer. So it's highly competitive and very social. And then people have drinks afterwards, and then they'll maybe arrange dinner and stuff like that. But it's for my parents, when I look at them, and they've been with this club for maybe 30 years, it's been such a big part of their social aspect. I was saying, what is it that was driving? And it was this, I think it's part of this, the ease of socialization.
Yeah. And I think they probably, because it's associated with that particular club, they also probably have a good indicator of what type of social experience they're going to get. Because sometimes you go to things and you're like, it wasn't that good. But if it's a place you're already familiar with, has social offerings, you kind of know the standard of that you're probably going to enjoy it.
Yeah. So I go back to when they joined the club. They didn't really know anybody. And now a lot of their lifelong friends are from that club. And they stay in touch with people. A lot of them, they'll travel to Florida together, do a lot of trips, they do a lot of things together. A lot of their friends just come from that club.
I think it's also the same concept that the Eugene or a lot of the apartment buildings are trying to get into.
So do you
offerings?
So let's talk about the Eugene. So when you know a lot of people in your apartment building, and the prior apartment building you lived in, not so much.
Correct.
Is that fair?
Yep.
Okay. So the way that Eugene is set up, it's set up to socialize. So you've met a lot of people, and then your prior one was just a regular apartment, and you probably recognize people who didn't know them.
Yeah.
Do you go out with people from the Eugene and go to like restaurants outside?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we just went to a birthday party on the roof twice this weekend.
Yeah.
2 different residents.
So it's hard to quantify the value that has in your system.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Right? I mean, it's not just comparing rents or location or how nice your apartment is. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. No, I get it. Yeah. There's a very non-monetary greatness. Like, you're getting all the social aspect out of it. And it's not really tied to the monetary.
So let me just ask you point blank, how important is that to you?
I think it's actually pretty big because
you probably take it for granted.
Probably now. So I think when I first moved in, I was like, wow, this is really amazing. Now, a year and a couple months in, maybe I take it slightly for granted, but I still always remember the fact that I actually get to just hang out, go up the elevator a couple floors or down a couple floors, and I don't have to seek this, like, what's going on out in the city. There's stuff going on in the building. So the convenience of being able to socialize is huge.
Yeah.
Also, because we were talking about it this weekend, if you want to go to a roof, so rooftops in the city during the summer are the peak place to be. Everyone wants to be on a rooftop. So in order for you to be on a public rooftop in Manhattan, you're probably going to be paying a very steep price for alcohol. So on Saturday, we stopped by this other place in Soho, great rooftop, 2 drinks, a Montauk beer and a glass of rosé came to $40.
Yeah, that's cheap.
Yeah.
I went to the Boom Boom Room at the Standard Hotel,
really expensive.
which is on a rooftop, but it was at the top floor. And not only did they look at us with disdain when we went in there, but we had those same 4 drinks for $120.
Oh, it's absurd.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah. I mean,
it's like $35, $40 a drink.
So to me, it's a premium price to be, in these like up in the sky locations.
Yeah.
And so we were also saying, well, actually, at the rooftop in the building, and a lot of the residential buildings that do have nice rooftops, you can bring a bottle of $10 wine up there and have a great time.
Yeah.
So you're right. You can't really tie financials. I mean, there are some financials to that, but you get way more out of it. Meeting your neighbors.
Did you go up there
relaxing.
Saturday?
Yeah. It was so busy.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I socialized with neighbors, hung out. And the best part is you can just, I guess similar to your parents at the golf club, you can opt in and then an hour later you can opt out.
Yeah. It's it's like, it's hard to explain, but I think, country clubs and penthouse apartments in Manhattan are not necessarily accessible for everybody. So to me, this notion gets to, and again, I don't have the answer, but I'm thinking how can we use technology, which in many ways is disrupting our social life through people just too focused on their light squares, to how do we start using it to say, hey, let's be thoughtful and mindful of the nice Saturday in July. How do we use that to increase our enjoyment in life?
Completely agree. And I think the big ticket too is finding out about ways to do that in advance, like we were just talking about. Because I've also had so many times where Monday will roll around and then I'll read something in the newspaper or online about, some cool event that happened 4 blocks away. And I'm like, crap, I didn't even know that was going on. Yeah.
Well, and to plan these things, I think I'm a big fan of spontaneity.
Same.
But there are some things that if you don't plan ahead of time, you're just kind of precluded from doing it.
Yeah.
So, when we did some of our trips together, we did a lot of spontaneous stuff, but we bookended it, meaning that we had locked in, we're going to start here and end here, and then we just left it open.
Yeah.
And that was great because at least you had the bookend set. And what you fill in between is, but if you don't plan the bookends, and by bookends mean like if you need a hotel room, you got a place to stay.
Yeah.
An agreement that 3 or 4 of you are going to go on, say a weekend down at the beach or or whatever. I would used to take. I'm going to probably do it again this year. For maybe 5-6 years in a row, I took my daughter, and sometimes TJ and Sarah would come down. We would go down to Wildwood, New Jersey, and we'd stay in this old 1950s style hotel.
Oh, cool.
And it's on the National Historical Register. It's called the Caribbean Motel, and we can put that in the show notes. But it was, it's like vacation like it's 1954 is their tagline.
Oh, nice.
And they play on. They have plastic palm trees. All the furniture's from the 1950s.
Wow.
It's nice, but it's an old motel style. And they play the 50s on 5, which is the XM station. They just play in your room and out by the pool. And everybody sits out in front of their room. And it's a little bit of an informal party. And then the owners of the motel will have a grill out there, and they'll cook food and give it to people. And people hang out. And then people go down to the beach or go to the boardwalk or whatever. But it's they do all these themed weekends.
Oh, that sounds fun.
If you don't book it in advance, you just can't go.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not like you can say, hey, let's go today. Well, they're sold out. They're sold out. I mean, if I don't book like August right now, it's in May, I may not be able to get in.
Wow.
So at least I have to start thinking about, the bookending of it. And then once you're there, you can fill in the blanks with whatever you want. But if you don't bookend that trip, it's simply not going to happen. And when I look back on how I spent my time in prior years, I'm like, I'm glad I did those things.
Yeah.
So it's at some level, it's worth it. And, this stuff may sound like it's very a duh to people. But I think in a busy world, at least the circles that we travel in, people get very busy with their work and their professional life, and they're not stepping back enough to thinking about planning out their personal life as much as they could in terms of the social. And some people may be really good at it, by the way. I'm not saying they're not. But what I'm saying is, how can we enhance it with technology?
Yeah, completely agreed. I agree. I think that a lot of more people probably need to be a bit more consciously mindful about doing that versus just, we talk about being the notion of autopilot and kind of just going through the motions. And then they're like, and you also hear, oh, it's Monday again. Well, you want to flip that paradigm too. Like, why does Monday have to be so dreadful? If Saturday was great, does Monday really matter? But there are people have this notion of, oh, it's Monday. Oh, it's Sunday night. I have to get ready for Monday. So
you've been with me to the Royal, right? It's a dive bar right by my house here. I love that dive bar. It's great. But on I forget what the days are. I get it mixed up. I think Tuesday is trivia night. I think Wednesday is bingo. And they have it in this dive bar. And it gets really crowded. And it's the same people there. They're getting tables, and people have a great time. And it's just the cost of buying drinks, and the bingo's free, the trivia's free, and they have prizes and stuff. But I go back to even things like the bowling leagues.
Oh yeah,
that were out there. It creates such a social atmosphere. If I look at Top Golf. You've been to Top Golf?
Yeah.
Did that once?
Yeah.
I went over there the other day here in Edison, New Jersey. It's a huge facility. I went there on a Saturday night.
Packed?
Beyond packed.
Yeah.
You couldn't park.
Wow.
I drove around for 25 minutes. I couldn't find a spot. I was waiting for someone to come out. I just couldn't get it. There's so many people cruising for spots. And they had a huge parking lot.
Wow.
And it was packed. I finally got in. I parked in an adjacent area, and I walked. And I got in there, and it was a total zoo. And I said, can I get a plate? And they said, you have a reservation? And I said, no. And they said, well, it's 3-hour wait.
Oh, great.
So basically it's saying, go home.
Home, yeah.
Right? So that was one of those things. If you don't plan it ahead of time, there's no spontaneity, because some of these things, and people were having a great time. And, we're using these, and in that case, they've taken technology, married it to golf, and basically combined, the equivalent of bowling and golf together in a social atmosphere, great drinks and food. It's a fun time. But people are craving this.
Yeah, definitely.
Just like they're spending money on live music, they'll spend money on social activities that are engaging them with other people versus continuing to isolate them.
Yeah.
And I think people today certainly realize that technology isolates people and are fighting that in the decisions that they're making. And I think it behooves technology providers to come up with positive energy technology solutions that allow them to go pursue those analog and social desires.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think that the awareness has been raised, and I think people are now slowly starting to do something about it.
Yeah. So anyway, I started looking at as I came to some of these. And that's not the first time I thought about it, but I started getting on, looking at New Jersey festivals, New York festivals, like what's coming up, what can I put on the calendar to try to drive, everything from, I'll give you one more example. This is 8 or 10 years ago, my wife comes into my office and says, "Let's go to Oktoberfest," and I'm like, "What, tomorrow?" And she's like, "Yeah, let's just go." And we're in New Jersey, so Oktoberfest, for those who aren't familiar, is in Munich, Germany. So I got online, I booked a couple flights. I said, "You take care of the hotel, I'll take care of this." So we booked like last minute stuff. We found a hotel, we got the flights, we flew through London, went to Salzburg, took a train. So it was a little bit of planes, trains, and autos. And so we finally get there, and I get to the hotel, and I said, "I'd like to go to Oktoberfest." And they said, "Do you have tickets?" And I said, "No." And they said, "Well,
good luck.
They're sold out, and they sell out 10 months ahead of time."
Huh.
So I said, so you're saying I flew to Germany and I can't go to Oktoberfest?" And they're like, I said, "I'll just call American Express." And they just looked at me like, "It doesn't work that way." So we ended up going to Oktoberfest. They had open seating at 9 a.m. for some 9 to 12. And then the tickets kicked in after that. So we were drinking beer at 9 a.m. By 12 o'clock, I was 3 sheets to the wind. But it was one of those ones where we kind of spontaneously went to Oktoberfest, but because we didn't plan it ahead of time, we couldn't do a lot of the cool stuff because we didn't have tickets. Now, we had a great time. We made the best of it. And, I've been to Oktoberfest about 3 times, so I know what I was missing. But, we made the best. We had a good time, but those are just kind of the things like, if you want to go to Oktoberfest, you need to plan for that. By the way, in January.
Oh, wow.
So it's
10 months.
It's September up to the first weekend in October. That's the timing of it.
Wow.
So if you want to go this year, you can still go. Well, you can buy tickets in the aftermarket.
Okay, yeah.
The aftermarket, has developed, but I went with clients and they bought aftermarket tickets, and it was a little seedy. But
I mean, at that point,
I wasn't handling it; they were. But it was just interesting how that got in there. I've been there 3 times, twice with tickets, and once with my wife without tickets, and I had the most fun with my wife when we went. So, it's just the different experience because we didn't have because. We were in that case, we were bound by the tickets, and there's only so much beer you can drink.
Exactly.
Right? Because they were bringing beers like a beer like a quart of beer every 25 minutes.
Wow. That's
Four
insane.
or 5 quarts, you're drunk. So
one other point. So I was just thinking as you were describing that, the comment about American Express.
Yeah.
So even the credit card companies are
selling experiences.
Oh my God. And good ones now.
Yeah.
Because I was looking at, I have Chase.
Yeah.
And there's a brand new, we've been talking about Hudson Yards on some of our podcasts, but there's, they did like a nice private event with one of the celebrity chefs of one of the new restaurants that opened up. And I was like, wow, it's really good. Like, I think the quality of the experiences that the credit card companies are now offering is pretty high in terms of what you can get access to. And so I feel like even they know that people want to do stuff.
Yeah. But they're catering it, for the most part, because I get ads for those are fairly expensive experiences.
They're very
$300-$500 a head, for some of those. So you can get them cheaper, but the really cool ones they're not cheap. Like you get a backstage pass or whatever.
Yeah.
But they're definitely going after people who have a lot of money who have already come to this conclusion. And my premise is more people are going to come to this conclusion than less, which is you're going to run out of time before you run out of money.
Yep.
So the credit card companies are smartly going after that crowd. And I think the price points are going to start coming down when the experiences that are valuable to people are not that inexpensive. So imagine a simple thing, and I'll just say a simple thing. If you happen to be somewhere, so by the shore, where you have easterly or westerly views unobstructed, what days are going to be a good sunrise and a good sunset?
Yeah.
That's free.
Free, yeah.
And it will point that out for somebody who says, hey, today's going to be a beautiful sunset. Why don't you go here and grab a drink? And that is a simple experience, and sometimes that's the best thing.
Yeah.
And a lot of times you see those beautiful sunsets or sunrises, it's hit or miss, it's opportunistic versus planned. Technology allows us to plan those things and add those experiences to our life.
Yeah.
Again, you and I have done a lot of these experiences. There is a social side to this. Because if I everything that you could do, if you had to do alone,
it's not as fun.
Not as fun.
Yeah.
It's not that you can't have fun, but you have to go into it with a totally different attitude, an attitude of why not, and that you're going to meet people, and that's not for everybody.
Yeah.
So we have Sean, who is our resident vagabond, solo traveler.
He's headed off again,
Yeah, he said he's going to Romania and
Kiev.
Unbelievable.
So we'll have to catch up with him.
And all he did was bookend the trip. He booked the flights.
Yeah, because he went because he saw some great deals on flights. And he's like, I haven't been to these two countries yet, or these two cities.
Yeah. All right. So he's going to have fun.
Yeah.
And we'll have to talk to him when he gets back.
Mm-hmm.
But he is a rare bird in that way.
Right.
That will go, sort of full seat of the pants and just see what happens and be open to the possibilities.
Yeah.
Most people need a little bit more structure and familiarity to do that. So anyway.
Cool stuff.
What do you got planned? Speaking of that, what do you have planned coming up? This weekend's not even supposed to be that great.
I know. So looking forward to that sunny Saturday, hopefully.
Yeah.
And we'll probably be leveraging the roof once again to do a barbecue.
Oh, because you guys can rent that, reserve that. Is that how it works? Yeah.
Yeah, you can book out the grills.
Yeah, so 2 weekends from now, so the 24th is Memorial Day weekend.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I was looking for, different things around that weekend. So it's 24, 25, 26, and 27, which is sort of a 4-day weekend. That's really, for New Jersey, the Jersey Shore, that's really the kickoff weekend for the summer holidays, right?
Right, yeah.
So anyway, I got the pool working, cranked up the heater on Saturday, make sure that's working, and we'll have to talk to people more about some of the experiences we're trying to create.
Definitely.
Great.
Cool.
All right. Thanks.
Talk to you
See
soon.
later. Hey, thanks for listening to the show. Karen, I think you were supposed to say that.
Yeah, thanks. I'll take it from here.
All right. Well, we got to do this is the new Outcast.
Oh, the outro. The outro.
I think Outcast is a new word. All
Okay.
right. Outro. We're doing a new outro. We got to cover a few things.
All right.
One is what? Subscription.
Do you subscribe through?
We want people to subscribe to this, not just listen to it occasionally.
Okay, yeah. Check us out.
The second thing is nothing's better than what? A 5-star rating.
Always 5 stars.
Got to give us the 5 stars because we get better search outcomes. Mm-hmm. And the last thing is comments.
We need those.
Yeah,
we need your feedback.
We want to know what people are thinking. So you can check us out. The best way to do it, if you're not sure, some people don't know how to do it. Go to our website. You can check it out. We'll have a full set of instructions. So whatever app you're using. Most people use, what do you use, Kiran?
I use Spotify.
You do?
Yeah.
So we have Spotify, we have iTunes, YouTube. There's a whole bunch of, whatever you use, we have it. And if we don't have it, let us know, and we'll try to figure out how to get it.
We can send you a paper-based instruction.
Actually, we do have paper-based instructions, even though that's a fun inside joke to our team. So anyway, Thanks for listening, and check us out on our next shows.
Thanks. See ya.